Fellas, welcome to Florida. Today I've got a package all the way from AvE. That's right, that AvE in Indiana. Oh, that's pretty good thinking. You ship them all together in one big bulk order across the border, and then you can have these guys mail them out. That way you can minimize any imperial entanglements. Let's get this thing open. Be nice if I had like some sort of utility knife. No, that's just gonna cause problems. I'm not trying to start a fire up in here. That's not gonna work. Plus that torch that's coming later. I'll show you in a second. All right, found it. I got my turkey carving knife. Let's just carefully. Oh, watch your fingers. I gotta reset this thing. Hold on a second. Had to borrow this vise off the forklift, but I think we've got just what we need to get this box open. And yeah, there we go. Time! Packaged as well as any blue crystalline material from Albuquerque. This is a DIY project, sort of like IKEA, but for, you know, a blue collar type of guy. And it's not from Scandinavia. One tool we're going to be using today is a single-aught Phillips screwdriver. I haven't used one of these things. Focus. Thank you. I haven't used one of these things for a real long time. Definitely not an automotive tool. So no ugga-duggas today, but we've got plenty to do. Let me open this thing up here. This package is conspicuously missing the cheat codes. Well, really, any documentation of any kind. Just got some bags of hardware and some of these stainless steel parts. Of course, he recorded a video on how to put that together, and I did watch it to see which order these things stack up in. And I think he mentioned something about these being laser cut. I don't think I saw a laser cutter in the Empire of Dirt. I don't know, maybe he said water jet, but either way, I haven't seen that machinery yet and I'm looking forward to it. But I've got to use some of this emery cloth here to finish up some of those parts. They're just in their raw form. So some of these edges are kind of jagged. I just want to clean that up and give it a good surface finish so this thing looks really good when I'm done. It's going to take a while, so I'm going to skip ahead for you. Now this is the titanium piece. It's the only titanium in the kit, but that's all you need to say, oh yeah, my knife is made with some aircraft grade titanium. Let me see if this, no. There we go. Pair of good old channel lock, USA made end cutting pliers. That ought to do the trick. Let me check this out. Get it right in there, a little squeeze. Got it. That's how it's done. This is my first time working with titanium. It's kind of exciting. Let me just get another little, right there in the middle. We got her. Okay. Yeah, but it left some of these nubs on here. Let me try and get a little bit closer on there so I don't have to file off so much. There we go. I know we're supposed to use sandpaper, but come on. And now we can use the torch. This is going to be to flame anodize this titanium. Check it out. Red hot turns to bright cobalt blue. Pretty sweet. Start with the base plate here. Go to the top. We've got a thin one, a titanium thick, and a locking plate. And then on the bottom, thin titanium thick locking plate. I got to admit, I watched his video to get this part stack up just right before I recorded this. He also mentioned to take one of these screws and then go in backwards. Just thread that thing in there backwards, and that way we can put the pieces on there, just stack them up, and that'll be sort of like a guide pin. Do it on both sides, top and bottom here, just that side on the right side, top and bottom on the right side. So screw these in here. It's pretty hard to work with these screws. All right, bottom stack first. Got them all stacked up. They're in the right order. Check, focus. Thank you. All right, first screw is in, and that looks pretty good. They're all lined up except the top one over here. There you go. Put that back on the guide pin. All right, all the screws are in except the pin over here. Let's get that one out. Now these screws aren't even hand tight. They're just sort of threaded in slightly, and the entire stack up is still loose. So if I squeeze it, it kind of moves around a bit, but that's what you want. You don't want them all tightened until we get to the end. Let me get that screw out. I feel like I need a microscope when I'm working with these little screws. I can barely feel them. And man, I already dropped one and I couldn't find it. It rolled under something. It's somewhere on the floor. But the cool thing is, he thought of that too. He gave us a couple extra screws and even one of the locking pins that holds the blade in place. All right, stage 1 complete. And stage 2, we've got the thin piece. This little thin spacer, I put a bend in it. I wanted to make sure that the blade had just enough room to go back and forth without binding up. So that's why I did that. Let's get this thick piece on there. And just move. I just got to make sure I hold that with my finger. Then I can get this locking plate. The screw is just long enough if you push down on it. All right, I'll hold that. Let me grab a screw. The first one is kind of tough. You got to kind of wiggle it in there and just do whatever you can to make it work. I'm going to turn the screw backwards a bit so I can get it to start, and then I can start screwing it in. And the rest of them are already in there, so I'm gonna thread them in without stripping them. Watch. Did you hear that? That was a little click. As soon as you hear that click, you know those threads are ready to start. Watch again. See that? That's how you know. I guess the elephant in the room is the price. This is not a cheap tool. It's a premium tool, and it's a handmade tool. You get to be a part of that. I like supporting someone who's willing to make a nice tool, something that's not full of plastic. This is all stainless steel and titanium, which is pretty sweet. You gotta spend, I don't know, a week or two of beer money on this thing, but then you've got it for life. This is a legacy tool. Something our daughter can keep in her garter belt on her wedding day. There I go, talking about stuff and I'm not even paying attention. Totally forgot to put this pin in there. That's the pin that's going to keep the blade from going back out of the tool unless you want it to. So you push right there. Let me squeeze the rest of these pieces back in and I'll screw them together. Speaking of quality, made in Japan, Olfa, these are the blades you want. Let's have a look at these and get one of them beautiful, sharp Japanese steel blades out of here. I don't want to cut myself, so I'm going to keep my fingers away from that sharp edge. They're oiled so they kind of stick together, so just be careful. There you go. Look at that. Last 3 pieces go through the hole in the blade. It's just one little pin on the bottom. You've got a spring and then the thumb wheel on top, sort of that handle. And that's also what locks it inside those, right there, those locks. All right, this thing is skookum as frig. I spent some time on it sanding and it looks really, really good. Best part is when you're done using that part of the blade and it's dull, just snap it off. And you've got a brand new, fresh, sharp Japanese blade ready to go. We can support all of our favorite YouTubers with something that snaps off. I'll show you. Here we go. And it snaps off, just like the blade.
This really is the best tasting chocolate in the world.